What's on? Chris here from the inkslinger.co.uk, and it's time for another Word Slinger. Those of you who are regular viewers will notice that everything looks slightly different behind me. That's because here in the UK spring has finally sprung, and we're getting some decent daylight, which was playing havoc with my lighting. So I thought I'd give you a slightly different view, and we'll see how that works. Now, I've had a slightly concerning week in that there's been nothing that is really striking my attention as being particularly word-slinging worthy of news in the last week, and I was thinking that maybe either will have a 5-minute episode or I will have absolutely nothing to talk to you about. But then suddenly there's been kind of a raft of news stories coming out over the last 24 hours or so. So I've got kind of little bitty things for you today. And I think we'll just launch straight in because I've got too much really to give you any highlights. So first of all, really tiny news. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Finally, a piece of DLC has been spotted, I think, for a pre-download on the Xbox One store. It's Mortal Kombat 10 we're talking about. And this DLC is called the Predator Prey Pack, confirming that, yes, the amazing Predator is finally coming to Mortal Kombat. It's actually really interesting. I spoke to a couple of weeks ago about this. I think it'd be fantastic. I was actually playing Mortal Kombat 9 a few weeks ago again, and I was just thinking it'd be really good if Predator was in this. And that was only a little while after that I actually heard the initial news. So I'm glad that it's gone from rumour to definite confirmation. Now the roster, I think, is up to something well over 24 characters for Mortal Kombat 10 and Mortal Kombat X. Is going to be a mental game. Predator's actually not the only movie character. You've also got Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th series is also confirmed as a piece of DLC, and then just a whole truckload of Mortal Kombat characters. Marvel movie news. We've got two pieces of movie news for you today. First of all, confirmation that the brothers Russo, or the Russo brothers, have signed with Marvel to direct Avengers Infinity War Parts 1 and 2. Now, if you're not entirely sure who they are, the Russos actually directed Captain America Winter Soldier, which was arguably one of the best movies that's come out of Marvel Studios. They are also going to direct Captain America Civil War, which is slated for a May 2016 release. Notice there's a real year after year feel here. And once they've done that, they're going to get started on Avengers Infinity War Parts 1 and 2. Part 1 is due to come out in May 2018. So exciting stuff there. Also, some Marvel movie news. Marvel has been actively seeking their new Peter Parker, their new Spider-Man. And the interesting news is that they are looking at 16, 17-year-old actors. So we're actually no longer going to have someone like Tobey Maguire, who was 50 something when he played Peter Parker, but pretending to be a teenager. I can't even remember. Andrew Garfield from the dreadful Amazing Spider-Man. He's got to be in his late 20s, I want to say, possibly even into his 30s. Probably not into his 30s, actually. I think I'll double check this. Put it there maybe, but no, they're actively looking for teenagers this time, so they're going properly down the proper Peter Parker route. And I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, so Badass Digest has reported that 16-year-old, I want to say Matthias Ward, but it's probably, if he's American, it's probably Matthias, of the TV series Weeds, has been reportedly auditioning. Now, he's not the only one, so this isn't a story that he's been cast. I think he's just one of the most notable people in there. But it does kind of add to the fact that Marvel is looking for a teenage role. Also, kind of puts paid to the rumours that Marvel were possibly going to be considering Miles Morales as their Spider-Man for their reboot. So that's exciting. So they want to get casting soon because there's a possibility that Spidey will make his Marvel Cinematic Universe debut in a cameo role in Civil War, which I mentioned earlier, is May 2016. So only about 14 months before we're going to see that. Something a little bit different. Nintendo are finally going to be releasing some mobile games. Now, this is not necessarily new news. The source of this story is actually from Macworld. So I suspect that this probably means that we're looking at iOS gaming rather than Android gaming. Not a problem for me, but I know there's a lot of droiders out there who will probably be maybe a little bit disappointed by this. Now, I'm almost certainly not the only owner of a smartphone or a tablet who has been disappointed to discover that you can't download Pokemon, okay, unless you want to do it illegally. But I think Apple have certainly... I've never done that, by the way. There was a little fix where you could do something like convince your phone that it was yesterday and it would let you download a Pokemon emulator. Fair enough, because Pokemon on your phone is like living a dream. I would love that. I would literally do nothing else in my life if I had Pokemon on my phone. Possibly some other things. I might look after my child and things, and maybe like have a beer occasionally. But no, just apart from that, nothing. So yes, Nintendo are finally going to be making some mobile games. There's a slight bit of concern that they're going to be joining up with Dena, don't know how to pronounce it really, DENA, which is a game studio that is renowned for publishing pretty rubbish freemium games. Now, that would be a bit of a disappointment if Nintendo actually started putting out freemium games. I would happily pay some number of monies for I don't know, a Super Mario clone. I'd pay to have like original Super Mario Brothers, maybe like Super Mario All Stars, the SNES one where they rehashed the graphics, made it look like Super Mario World. I would pay a couple of quid to have that on my iPhone. That'd be epic. Even better on my iPad, maybe. Definitely something like Pokemon, classic Pokemon Red and Blue. I would pay maybe, I don't know, £5 perhaps. I don't know, maybe that's pushing it a little bit, maybe a couple of quid, but certainly I don't want none of this freemium rubbish. Let's just hope that when Nintendo do actually start making games that they're going to give us some decent ports, and that we don't end up with some sort of rubbish collectible card Pokemon something. Actually, there is a Pokemon trading card game on iOS already, but I guess more news on that when it comes. We'll see what sort of stuff they start to produce. So, for fans of Game of Thrones, I know these are kind of split into three camps, really, much like the Game of Thrones themselves. So you've got the people, the diehard book readers, and you've got the people who love the TV series and have never read the books. And then you've got the people who desperately want to read the books before watching the TV series, but seeing as there's if you were to put all of the Game of Thrones books into a row, it would, I understand, stretch from London to Manchester, so it's quite difficult to keep up to date, especially seeing as the seasons, the HBO series goes so much faster. So the first two groups I mentioned, the people who just read the books, they're not going to be bothered by this news. The people who just watch TV series, they're not going to be bothered by this news. But something that's been in the rumour mill for a little while now is what is actually going to happen when the TV series overtakes or certainly catches up with the books. Because it's going to happen. I mean, Game of Thrones TV series is up to, I think, season 5. And George R.R. Martin is like putting each of his one volume, or each book is now in about 6 or 7 different volumes. It's an exaggeration, it's 2 for a couple of them. But that means he's only up to, I think, book 6. And he's already, I mean, he's renowned for being quite grumpy, as far as I can tell. So he's already sort of grumpily said, I'm not going to rush my books, blah, 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 blah. Something along those lines. Not sure if that's a good impression or not. But so it's actually it's been reported over the last couple of days that the showrunners D.B. Weiss and David Benioff have essentially said, yeah, we're going to overtake. So I mean, what is that going to entail? Well, essentially, the good news is they've been discussing with George Martin. I'm not going to pronounce all the R's. They've been in discussion with him for quite some time. They've got an idea of where he wants to go. I'm not entirely sure if he really does know where he wants to go, because I think he was originally going to write a trilogy or something. I'm not sure if I'm recalling that rumour correctly or not. But so he's certainly sort of stretching this out. So I wonder if he even really knows where his end point is. But they're going to try and end up in the same place. So if you are in the camp of trying to read the books before you watch the series, you're basically going to have to stop watching. Otherwise, you're going to just get major spoilers. Now, they have differed a little bit. Okay, I understand. I really struggled to get into Game of Thrones. I like the books. I kind of like the books, but again, there's just a bit too much bookage there in my liking. I never really got into the series, but like Walking Dead, I think maybe it just takes a little bit. You have to push past that bit where they spend 12,000 episodes on a farm to get to something a little bit more interesting. So the series has kind of diverged from the books a little bit. So maybe we're talking like alternate universes, and they'll sort of come together in the same point. So the showrunners have essentially said, "Don't worry, we'll show you some different things." And I think George Martin has also said, "Don't worry, you're gonna see some different things if you read the book." So although you get the actual final ending, maybe spoiled, I don't know. It won't necessarily be a complete and utter spoiler. Hey, did you know they're going to be making a new X-Files series? I kind of did, actually. I should have reported on this a couple of weeks ago. I think probably I read it, got so excited that I forgot to put it into my show notes and never mentioned it again. Fox is thinking about bringing back the X-Files. What? Now, the X-Files finished. Oh, good Lord. Sometime in the early 2000s, I think. I think we're like possibly even like 2000, 2001. Again, we'll pop it down there so that we can be sure. And the story of the X-Files was all sort of forging on towards this point that aliens were basically going to just come and destroy the Earth on the day of the Mayan calendar prophecy, which I think was in 2012. That obviously never came to pass. Certainly the Mayan calendar thing never really went anywhere, which is I for one am glad about, as I'm sure a few other people are as well. So where's the X-Files actually going to go from here? Because they were really, really laying their foundations thick for that one. But no, they're planning on coming back, and this was sort of as a rumour, and then it looks like Fox, excuse me, Fox TV is actually pushing ahead with this. It's still in rumour stages. No, actually, I think it's gone slightly beyond rumour. It's something that they want to do, but nothing is set in stone. So TV Wise has reported within the last couple of days actually that Fox is actually interested in signing for a short series of 10 episodes. That's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of the series coming out of the US over the last couple of years have been shorter ones, and I think it works so much better than having to sort of plough through 25 episodes in a season. The talks are ongoing. They're worried about how they're going to fit in with the scheduling, the busy scheduling of Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny. Now, Gillian Anderson is in everything at the moment. Is David Duchovny in anything? Is he doing anything with his life, with his career? Really? So I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to have to fit anything around his schedule. It's probably more Gillian Anderson they're waiting for. I had a major crush on her when I was in school, so I for one be very, and specifically as Dana Scully, I think. I seem to remember. So from my point of view, more X-Files would be great. Are they going to go into production in the summer? So I guess it is beyond rumour if they're planning on going back in. So last up, a little bit of an update, I guess. Last week I started off reporting on the Marvel Secret Wars event, and it kind of it became such a huge piece that it turned into its own episode, which was kind of like a megasode. It was even longer than one of my standard ones. But I reported at the end of that the list of new titles coming out for Secret Wars was certainly not exhaustive, and certainly there's been a couple of extra titles announced this week, so here's a little bit of a Battle World update for you. Maybe I'll come up with a graphic for that. That's cool. I haven't really done any graphics yet. Let's have a Battle World update, like there. Maybe, or I'll just edit that out, one of the two. So the 3 new comics have been announced this week, and they're all under the War Zones moniker. Remember, there's 3. You've got Battle World, which I can't even remember what that one is. You've got Last Days, which charts the end of the Marvel Universe. You've got Battle World, which is just it's just like a series of boring looking one shots. There's only about 8 issues. The majority of them are in the War Zones, which are the different parts of Battle World. So 3 new comics. One called Hail Hydra, which is going to be about Hydra having taken over the world, or certainly the US, but actually quite an interesting spin. They are going to have taken it over hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So we're not just going to see kind of like what if Germany had won the Second World War kind of storyline, but actually what if we're talking like basically the entirety of American history, completely rewritten from a different point of view. So that'll be quite interesting. And they're going to be using the character of Ian Zola, the hero Nomad, who I know very little about, so I won't go into too much detail. In the main current Captain America storyline, he is kind of like drifting in between dimensions. So I think he will, in the same way that, so I think he's just going to sort of arrive here, not be an existing part of it, is certainly what I can gather. And that's kind of a little bit like when the House of M and the entire Marvel Universe changed. And then Deadpool was dimension hopping at the time, and he hopped into the House of M dimension, assumed it was another parallel dimension, and hopped out again at the end of a couple of issues. That's quite an interesting spin. Civil War's coming back, and just the first bullet point I put is just damn straight. Civil War was so good. Now there is an entire possibility that this is really a marketing ploy to get people interested in the Captain America Civil War movie next year. But so what? That film's going to be great. That series was really good. Now this is not just going to be a retelling of Civil War. Excuse me. This is apparently going to be picking up at the end of, not even at the end, picking up at the current state of the superhero Civil War that has been apparently rampaging for quite some time. So a different spin on it. Don't forget, within Battleworld, the different zones, as far as I can tell, are going to be completely independent from each other. So it's kind of like a series of parallel worlds just all in the one place. And then finally we've got Age of Apocalypse, another classic coming back. And again, Age of Apocalypse is the next X-Men movie from Bryan Singer. Not sure on a release date for that, but certainly probably within the next 2 years. So is it really a marketing thing, or is it actually because it was a renowned storyline? Probably a bit of both. And we've also had finally come in a list of all the cancellations. So Marvel is going to be doing away with some of its issues within the next 2 months, I would have thought, because Secret Wars is due to start in June. So what's it now? March. So we've got just a couple more issues left on all of these comics. 33 comics, no less, are being cancelled. And that list is all new Captain America. That's being replaced, I think, with Hail Hydra. All new Ghost Rider, which I think is being replaced with that dreadful sounding Ghost Riders, about the Ghost Riders having a car race. All new X-Men, tragic news actually, because I hadn't realised how many different comics they've got with all new at the start. That's very lazy. 5 Justice Leagues. All New X-Men that's a great series. That's about the original X-Men coming forward to the present. Very sad that's going. Amazing Spider-Man, that's going, but being replaced, I guess, with Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. Amazing X-Men, Angela, Asgard's Assassin, being replaced with Angela 1602, or 1602 Angela Witch Hunter, I think it was. Just plain old Avengers World. Captain Marvel, that's going to be replaced with Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps. Cyclops, I understand that's sort of going quietly into the night. Deadpool, they're killing him anyway. Elektra. Fantastic Four, still no Fantastic Four titles announced for Secret Wars. Nothing. Guardians 3000, Guardians of the Galaxy being replaced with Guardians of Nowhere. Hulk being replaced with about 12,000 different Hulk titles. Inhuman being replaced with Atlan Rising, I believe. Iron Fist, the Living Weapon. Legendary Star-Lord. Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man. Still not sure what's going to happen to Miles. He's pretty much the only bit left of the Ultimate Universe that people really care about, apart from maybe Samuel L. Jackson styled Nick Fury. I'm assuming that he's going to make it into the standard Marvel Universe. New Avengers, Nightcrawler, Nova, Rocket Raccoon, Secret Avengers. Again, hadn't realised how many Avengers titles there were out there. Spider-Man and the X-Men, weird title really. Spider-Man 2099, that's just being replaced with I can't even remember what it's called now. Is it Secret Wars 2099? I think. Not sure. I think that's what it is. So that's just a replacement. Miguel O'Mara, I think is his name. The Spider-Man 2099 is basically just going to rejoin his continuity from the present day. Storm, another one going quietly into the night. Superior Iron Man, from all accounts, has not been well received, so it's probably good to get rid of that. Thor is being replaced with Thor's, or Thorcore, I think they should be called. Uncanny X-Men. Wolverines, he's dead, but being replaced with, I think, like 3 more. I bet he's going to be in Age of Apocalypse as well. And Standard X-Men. Again, 12 million X-Men titles out there, all being cancelled. One thing that's interesting to note is that Marvel have essentially said that at the end of Secret Wars, some of these might come back. So I'm starting to feel a little bit more optimistic that Battleworld is not going to be the be-all and end-all of the Marvel Universe. Just kind of a horrible mess for the time being. Interesting stuff there. That's quite enough for this week. Don't forget that you can come say hey on Twitter at Lord_Chancellor. You can pop along to www.theinkslinger.co.uk. Wordslinger.co.uk is coming soon, actually, but not yet. And don't forget, of course, you can sound off in the comments below. Until then, have a good week.